Hey, BassGeek here, and you can throw all your other jigs away because this does it all. That's right, geeks, this may be the last jig you ever need. Now, you know that I love throwing a jig, and there's a very specific type head of a jig that I love to throw, and you can see that in my biggest video, Jigs 101. That jig does everything well, and I love to use that particular head. So it's going to take something special for me to say that I've got a new favorite jig head. And this Versa by Amigo baits has taken over that spot. So Bass Amigos Fishing has brought us a really cool jig. Now, they worked with a guide to help design this, to really have a jig that you can do everything with. You know, it's going to come through grass well because of the pointed head. They've already trimmed the weed guard down. I always like to make sure my weed guard just barely comes past the barb. And I like the wide flat head because the way it will come over wood and brush and rock, it does not get snagged up nearly as bad as any other jig. One of my favorite colors right here, kind of a green pumpkin blue. They call it Money Gill. This is called Neon Dion. A little bit of black with a little bit of orange in there, black and blue. Really wild little color right there. Another great little color, it's got some green in it, a little bit of purple, a little bit of flash of blue. This is called Mardi Gras. Good bright color for the summer. Really love this. This is a great color for the fall for me. I think this is called Belaw Craw. You can see it's got a little bit of that blue pearl, that orange, that green pumpkin. Like that color a lot. Now this is one of my little secret colors. I guess maybe it's not so secret, but it's a great little color, especially in the fall. I've always called it black brown amber, but they call it mud whistle. I love that amber and that brown. Great contrast with that black. Love the black head. That's the key to this, is the black head. Now, if I want a big jig presentation, when we talk about trailers, I want some sort of crawl. This is the J Bros Ditch Lobster. It goes perfect with this jig. Now, let's say I wanted something that's a little more or a little less action because the fish aren't very active right now. Well, that's when I'm going old school. This, which is the Zoom Big Salty Chunk. Now, I'm going to hang it most of the time, but if you want a more compact, you can actually thread it up on there. But any sort of beaver or chunk or ditch lobster will work just fine. So one of the things we're going to do is we're going to tie a San Diego jam knot. So basically all we do is come down, come around 5 to 6 times, come through the top loop, then down through the bottom loop. You'll moisten that, pull it down, pull everything tight. The reason why I like to tie a San Diego jam knot is because, again, you're not going to get your tag end caught up on any sort of grass or anything. It comes out the bottom of the knot. And there you've got it. You're tied on, ready to go. My setup, you know, it's gonna be TFO. This is their high end, this is their Resolve. I love this for my jig rod, 7'6". Now I'm not flipping with this, but I can. 7'6" heavy, 90% of the time. This is just for my casting jigs. You can see, you can throw a 1/2 ounce to 1.5 ounces. Now I've got the Art Gravity on here. This is an 8 1-to-1 reel. This thing casts real well. And as always, K9 line. Now on my casting, I'm only running a 15-pound Test Pro 100% fluorocarbon. And like I say, check out the discount. Go try some of this, guys. They make the best braid on the market. I'm not kidding. So one of my favorite ways to fish this is literally just to cast it. Just go down the bank, fish it a lot like you would a Texas rig worm. Just pick it up, start casting it. Now, this time of year, I like to find places where it's a good mix of chunk rock and mud or dirt. That gives the crawfish places to burrow, to hide, to crawl up under, and that's where this thing is going to shine this time of year. Now, I'm going to show you one little trick that I do when it comes to the weed guard. One of the things I do, it's already cut perfectly, is when I'm casting or even I'm flipping, I spread the weed guard side to side. And one of the reasons why I do that is because it makes that weed guard fan out. And this bait is not bad about rolling over at all, but if it does roll over coming across a branch, it'll come up, roll over, and still protect that hook. You don't get snagged. So now, as far as casting a jig, you know, it depends on you. You can make a long cast with it if you're out on, say, a ledge, straight above. You can sidearm it to if you're up in close quarters and you want to minimize the splash and the sound. Generally, I'm out here on a ledge right now. I'm just going to make a short little cast, but you can make a long cast. This thing does it all. It literally has replaced every jig in my box. But after the cast, depending on what time of year it is, I'm going to do 2 or 3 different things. I'm going to drag that jig, or I'm going to drag and then give the jig a little bit of a hop. If they're active, that hop is going to get them going. If they're not, we just want to keep that jig in front of them as much as we can. Now, hook set, when you feel a bite, you're going to feel 2 things. You're going to lift up, it's going to be heavy. It's probably a good bass because you didn't feel him. Again, you want to keep your rod tip at about 9 o'clock, and as you come up, don't go past 11. Set the hook on him hard. It's got a good beefy hook in it. Drive that sucker home. Keep the rod tip low, get him to the boat, put him in, boat hop him. If you got a buddy, net him, get him in the boat. And that's casting a jig. We're going to talk about flipping next. Now listen, I love flipping this into brush, blowdowns, that sort of thing. It comes out really well. One thing that I will tell you, as I work brush, I like to stay back, flip the deeper end. Don't go running right in on it. Flip that deeper end first, or even cast to it if you have to, and then work your way in to the main, core of the trunk or the main section, the shallow section of that blowdown or brush pile. Now, with this, I know a lot of guys are going to be flipping left-handed. I'm just old school. I've always done it this way. I'm kind of goofy anyway, but I still flip with my right and change, but I've done it for so long, I'm quick enough. Trust me, if there's a bite, he's going to get his face stuck. So, just how I do it. You guys do it whichever way you feel most efficient about it, but the biggest thing is try to be as quiet as you possibly can when you flip it in there. Make that entry as silent as you can. One of the other things when you're pitching a tree, do not turn. If you're really working that tree, don't blow it out. Don't turn your trolling motor toward it. That is a big no-no. It will push a wave of water to them, and you will probably not get bit. When you do the hook set on this, it's the same sort of thing. You want to keep that rod tip at 9. Don't come up higher. I would say when you're flipping 10 o'clock max, you're going to want a hook set straight over your head, and you're going to crank. Get them out of there. Do not drop your rod tip. Get those bass up and in the boat. Don't fight them once you know they're clear. You crank and lift and put them in your boat because they will shake that jig. All right, so make sure you go check out the Bass Amigos Fishing Versa jig. Comes in some good colors, comes in some good sizes. Hope we covered enough stuff to get you started with a jig, and this is a great jig to start with. You can see we flipped it over there. We did a little bit of nothing and never got snagged. I've been testing this thing out and throwing it around a lot of junk, and it comes through it extremely well. Now, if you want to see the jig that I used to love and was kind of my all-around jig, make sure you go check out this video, Jigs 101. And as always, questions, comments in the comment section below. You geeks know I love to talk about fishing. Like it if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Make sure you ring that bell. 100% Watch Squad. Love you geeks. And as always, you geeks rock.